Do you believe climate change poses a national security threat?
As far as Canada goes, I do believe that the climate is changing. I don't think that humans impact it as much as the government would fearmonger us into believing, especially Canada. We contribute less than 1% of all emissions in the world. You could drop Canada off the face of the earth, it wouldn't make a difference to climate. So why is our government bankrupting Canada and Canadian businesses to go green when China, India, all those countries are not doing anything? They're doing nothing, and they're the big polluters.
Yes, it's horrendous. Last year I traveled to the ice fields in Alberta, and I'd been there 15 years before that, and I was horrified to see the difference in the ice fields. And that really was a wake-up call. So it's very, very serious. And we do live we have a lot of coastal line.
I think it's happening. It's happening right now. Climate change is happening to us with our weather. It's just unpredictable. I think that we assume too many things. We take things for granted. And I think it's time that we start to listen to the earth, to the nature, and to the creation. And that we are not the boss, we're not in control, but to react and respond to a way that is comfortable for us, and to appreciate what Mother Earth is bringing our way.
Well, I think it poses a security threat to our country, Canada, and therefore the world, because it affects how the storms, the cyclones, all the weather that has been changing. And anybody who has lived longer than 20 years or so has seen that now, how it's affecting the world and economically, and just for the populations in general. And so I think that we really need to look at that. It's a serious threat to all of us. And I pray for my grandchildren that they will have a healthy climate to grow up in.
I definitely don't think that climate change is a national security threat. I think that the Earth's climate has been changing forever, and I think there possibly is some concerns we should address when it comes to the environment, but I think steps need to be taken slowly and not in a manner that affects our economy.
Yes, because if you look at things happening in the United States, it's out of control there. The weather is so erratic. It's not nearly as bad here, but it should be actually addressed in the same way as a national security issue.
Well, I think in the longer term, of course, it does pose risks and threats in terms of fires, in terms of rising sea levels. But Canada probably is less influenced than many other countries. If you think of the United States right now with their fires in California, if you think of rising sea levels with low-lying countries. So yes, it's an existential threat to everyone, but I think Canada is much better positioned than most other countries in order to deal with the effects of climate change.
I think it definitely has an impact on national security. I'm not sure it's as extreme as perhaps what they're making it out to be. The weather in general over time changes, but certainly I think that we need to be conscious of it for sure for the next generations. We got to try to do what we can, but doing a few things like having paper straws instead of plastic ones, I think that's kind of silly. I think we've got much bigger issues globally than that here.
I think we have bigger fish to fry than global warming, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I think it does. But I think that right now, the relationships between Russia and Ukraine, the relationship with China, and now they're partnering with Russia and starting to meet again. We've got way bigger fish to fry, inflation and jobs and all those things. So in my opinion, we should be focused on that. I think BC 11 is going to be critical. To me, again, that's way more important right now than worrying about climate change affecting our national security.
Absolutely. Why? Because it will change absolutely everything of the way that we work and live and how people make money. It will change who makes money if we don't take an inclusive approach. And so when we transition to lower carbon technologies, for instance, we want to make sure that women and men both benefit. And if we don't, then I think that we will see lots of unrest and even more inequality than we already have in this country, and that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. As Canadians, we shouldn't accept that.
Absolutely. I'm actually originally from Nunavut, so I think it does pose a national security threat, whether that's a threat to our sovereignty or a threat to our infrastructure, in terms of ease of access to the Northwest Passage, ease of access to the Arctic. I think climate change is definitely one of those things that does pose a national threat.
I have to be out west with the fires, and I live in Edmonton. We were under smog from BC wildfires. But I can't say it's global warming because I just exhibited like a few weeks of minus 30 back home. But there's definitely chaos, and it is definitely a national disaster. We need to look at our infrastructure for power. We need to look at our infrastructure for telecommunications. And we need to look at our infrastructure for things like water, right? Like as a nation, right? Like, so I wouldn't just blame climate change. I'd blame our preparedness towards that chaos that we're experiencing.
I think I'm not sure how quickly, but yes, I believe that I'm worried about the effects of climate change and how it could impact, especially along our coastline, where the water levels could rise significantly over the next number of years. So I think we have to be aware of it, and try to do what we can to control whatever we have control of.
Well, I mean, climate change puts us all at risk. It makes resources more scarce. It makes weather more unpredictable, and so anytime you have situations where people are worried, then I would say our security is at risk.